Call this meeting to order, Bradley County Commission, August 15th, 2022, voting session. Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Commissioner Cindy Slater and an invocation by Westwood Baptist Student Minister Andrew Slay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we come to you this afternoon and just thank you and praise you, Lord, for your goodness to us. Thank you for the life you've given us. We thank you, Lord, for the grace that you have shown us in making a way for us to be saved through your Son, Jesus Christ. And Lord, we pray for our governing officials in our county and our city today, Lord, as they seek to make decisions that would be pleasing to you, Lord, and according to your will. I pray, Father, that you would give them wisdom, Lord, and discernment on the decisions that they make and the votes that are placed. Lord, I pray that your will and your purposes would be done through our governing officials, Lord, for the goodness of our people here in our city, Lord, and for your glory, God. Give them grace and strength to trust in you and rest in your sovereign hand over their lives. We pray you would receive all the glory from it. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Welcome, everyone. I would like to remind commissioners when you speak to have your microphones on and speak into your microphone. Thank you. Madam, would you call the roll?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Here.
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 Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Here.
Thank you, Madam. Could I entertain a motion for approval of minutes? Have one from Commissioner Everson, second from Commissioner Goins. Call the roll, please.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam. Now a report from our County Mayor, Mayor Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, everyone. 2 or 3 things here to report right quick. First of all, we just had the ribbon cutting for Cleveland and Bradley County's newest restaurant. Cheddar's opened at 11 o'clock this morning. I couldn't get you all to delay your meeting, so I didn't get to eat, but it is a very, a very beautiful restaurant, and we welcome them to Cleveland and Bradley County. You all, I think it's on your agenda, but you all had asked for a letter to be sent to our federal delegation concerning supply chain issues. You have a copy of a letter from Senator Marsha Blackburn that it should be in front of you with her non-committal response saying she'll do what she can. Also, I wanted to mention next week I will be gone with the new commissioners to the orientation. So today is the last meeting that I will have with 5 of you, and I just wanted to mention each one of you, Commissioner Epperson, Commissioner Mull, Commissioner Peak, Commissioner Davis, Commissioner Raper, even though I'll probably see you around. Just want to say it's been a pleasure working with each one of you, serving with each one of you, and we'll miss you, and on behalf of the people of Bradley County, we do appreciate your service to this community. Agree or disagree with you, you've overall done a great job, and I really appreciate it. It's been great working with you. On that note, make sure you mark your calendars for Thursday, September the 1st at 9 o'clock on the plaza. We'll have the swearing-in ceremony for all county elected officials that morning. It'll be a very quick ceremony, but 9 o'clock on September the 1st. We'll get sworn in and start a new 4-year term. Looking forward to it. That's all I have unless someone has something for me.
Thank you, Mayor. Any questions of the mayor?
If not, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, sir. Can I entertain a motion for consent agenda? Have one by Commissioner Hughes, second by Commissioner Thompson. Any discussion? Call the roll, please, Madam.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, madam. Now, reports from committees and/or districts. We will start to my left with Commissioner Winters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the second week of the school system beginning, and for our district, the 7th District, we'd like to compliment the city school system and the county school system for the smooth way that they've moved traffic on 60 highway that's been backed up because of the way the travel has been necessary with construction. Compliments to Ms. Kaysen, who is here with the school board, and their team, Dr. Cash, to make this happen in the city schools. It's been very smooth. There's obviously a long line getting into the schools, but everyone's been very courteous to us that are getting out of subdivisions during that time. We've all been able to get out easily. People have been very courteous with that. But let me just remind people, there's a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit in front of those schools, and it needs to be very much taken to heart. We still have a lot of work to be done on 60 highway. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Winters. Commissioner Raper.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just want to say one thing, and that was the road on Highway 60 is progressing nicely, and hopefully it will come to a conclusion in the near future. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Raper. Commissioner Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to remind everyone about the August 22nd broadband meeting at 12 p.m. And then it is no secret by now, but I do want to stop and take a moment to congratulate Sheriff Steve Lawson on being named the Tennessee Sheriff of the Year by the Tennessee Sheriff's Association last week actually. From officer safety, new cars and equipment, to our jail passing inspections with flying colors, Sheriff Lawson has more than delivered on his promise to get better every day. I've had the honor to work closely with he and his team the last 3 years as the law enforcement chairman. Those of us on that committee and I have had a front row seat to watch the great work that's been done at the Bradley County Sheriff's Office under Sheriff Lawson's leadership. I'm thrilled that the rest of the state is now recognizing the level of service and leadership that we have here in Bradley County, and we have come to know from our sheriff. This award is well deserved. I think that I can speak for all of us up here when I simply say congratulations, Sheriff Lawson, and we look forward to 4 more years of service here in Bradley County from you and your staff. Thank you.
Sheriff Lawson, if you'd like to say anything, you're more than welcome to.
Well, we all know that he does.
Oh, I know.
You know, I'll tell you what I told them when they called my name out, and I didn't really have a hinkling. I thought something was in the works, but I wasn't sure what it was. And when they called my name, I said this. Number one, I put God first, my family second, the job third. And I couldn't be anywhere if it wasn't for the people I surround myself with, for the people within the sheriff's office, the Bradley County Commission, the mayor. Everybody has put this together. So it's really not my award, it's this whole community's award. Because I couldn't have done it without you, and we can make each other. But the way y'all have treated me is compared to none across the state. I talked to different sheriffs. There's the mayor, he's told me about the sheriff's association time or two. I bring back ideas, but they're good to me. I think they serve me well, they serve this community well, but I appreciate each of you because this is your award, not just my award. This is your award as well, and I appreciate it.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Mr. Chairman, if I could add to it, Steve in his acceptance speech, I guess you would say, mentioned Bradley County and working for the greatest county in the state of Tennessee. And I quickly responded, don't know if you saw it or not, and said on behalf of the people of the greatest county in the state of Tennessee, we congratulate you and we're proud of you. So just wanted to add that on behalf of the people. We are proud of him. I don't like it here when he goes to Sheriff's Association because sometimes they come back with, but anyway, he's done well and we appreciate it. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other comments? Anybody want to say anything concerning the sheriff? Mr. Thompson.
I'm proud of you, Steve.
Anyone else? Congratulations, Sheriff. Anything else, Commissioner Davis? Thank you. Commissioner Mason.
Thank you, Chairman. Everything's well on the 6th.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yesterday was the open house for the first home built in the Blythe Oldfield area using the county ARP money. Appreciate everyone that came out to that event. That event started at 1 o'clock, and they actually had potential home buyers begin to line up at 12:30 to look at that home. They were able to take 9 appointments for this week to meet with individuals who are interested in that home to potentially become first-time home buyers, and they expect to begin accepting offers on that home on August the 24th. And one other note about that home was it was built using all Bradley County contractor suppliers. So those tax dollars stayed in Bradley County, and for the future homes, they will stay in Bradley County also. I also would like to recognize and congratulate the Bradley Central High FFA. They were named a National Chapter Award recipient and a 3-star chapter at that. That is the highest award a chapter can receive. They will travel to Indianapolis this October to be recognized. So congratulations to Bradley Central High's FFA. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Slater. I know they've been, I can't remember, 45 years in a row, I believe, or something along that line. Yeah, yeah, it's been very impressive. Thank you. Commissioner Goins.
I'd like to thank Lieutenant Mason for getting ready to help me clean up a place down there on Timber Hills that's in bad need of it, and that's all I have.
All right, thank you, sir. Commissioner Thompson.
Yes, I've, since I had my fire on 64 Highway, I've really never had a chance to sit down and thank everybody because everybody was so good. And that's the reason I said what I did about the sheriff a while ago. He spent the day with me out there, and so did the assistant mayor and some of the commissioners. And I just want to thank the county and everybody that was involved. They were so good at that time and been thoughtful and thankful. And even my church and everybody concerned, you know, in that community out there. And I just want to thank everybody and make that where everybody can hear it, you know, that I thank the whole county for what they did during that time.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Cry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to welcome the school board member, Nancy Kaysen, for being here with us today. Also, I'd like to thank the school system for Hopewell and the traffic turnaround that has been developed. There was not a single car on Freewell Road. It's a miracle. If you have an opportunity, please go out and look at it. It's 1 lane, 2 lanes, and it's really phenomenal what they have done out there. Also, we had a school bus accident this morning. Vehicle rear-ended a school bus loaded with students in the vicinity of Ocoee Middle School on Ocoee Street. There were no injuries to any students, so it was one of those slow-moving deals. I have no other information except the main thing, no one was injured. And one last thing, this letter from Senator Blackburn, the mayor was very kind. I'm going to be very pointed. I noticed nowhere in here does she address the topic that it was sent for, and that was emergency service vehicles to get those chips so we can get these emergency service vehicles on the road. I'll just leave it at that. I thought maybe she would have addressed that, or whoever wrote this letter for her. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Cry. Commissioner Peak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Thompson, we came out that day just to make sure you were okay, and we found out you were. But now we stayed the rest of the day because we were waiting on the hot dogs. Isn't that correct, Sheriff? And they never showed up, but we did come out because we were worried. But congratulations, Sheriff. It's been an honor to serve with you for the past 10 years. I know you were the sheriff for the past 4 years, but in your capacities prior to that, we got to serve together. So I appreciate everything you've done for Bradley County. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Peak. Commissioner Blake, welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's good to be back. Also, congratulations, Sheriff. Appreciate all the work we do together and continue with the next 4 years. Mr. Chairman, I think you announced it, but the Finance Committee will meet immediately after this meeting, give about 10 minutes or so to transition over, but the Finance Committee will meet right after this meeting. Other than that, all is good in the third. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Blake. I know you wouldn't miss a finance meeting. Commissioner Alford?
Second district's doing well. I saw something on the email the other day or somewhere where they just started building something on that property you voted to annex the other day. Was that something about tents or something? I thought I saw that somewhere, but anyway, something you may want to look at. One other thing, historical, you people up here may want to look at it. Go back in your history books and look up brown shirts. Look up brown shirts and see what this 87,000 IRS people are going to be doing. Just look up brown shirts.
Very familiar. Thank you, Mr. Alford. Commissioner Cry?
Thank you. I'd like to add a comment to Commissioner Alford. That item he's talking about, a little fishing tents that was on Facebook, and Mr. Thomas acknowledged and made a comment. So for those of you that voted for it, recreational vehicles have now gone into the business of fishing tents. So it was on Facebook, it was on the internet, and commented on by Mr. Thomas, who did not deny it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cry. Commissioner Hughes?
Mr. Chairman, I see Miss Kaysen out there, school board member of First District. I was actually going to brag on our traffic flow. I stopped by at Hopewell, that is. I'd stopped by the school and spoke with the principal and the SRO there. No traffic on the roadways at all. So it did work, and actually the road actually opens up to a 4-lane at one portion. So it's doing exactly what it was there for. I also, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull item C.
Okay.
And I am going to leave. I know we got this letter showing where it came from. The motion for the Emergency Service Committee, it was actually directed for emergency vehicles. I think I'm going to leave that on so we can go ahead and send that.
Okay. Thanks, sir. Anything else?
That'll be it.
Okay. Mr. Peak?
Yes, I just had a comment to Commissioner Cries. The fishing tents that Mr. Thomas may or may not have on his property is completely legal in either zoning. He can pitch a tent wherever they want to. It doesn't have to be zoned to pitch a tent. So if he wants to rent it out to people that want to fish and recreational, he can in either zoning.
Thank you, Mr. Peak. Commissioner Epperson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also would like to welcome Nancy Kaysen being a resident of the First District and working like she did, trying to get this Hopewell, what I'll call a highway around the back portion of that school. And also, I had rode by there yesterday coming back from the Tennessee River, and they were basically dismantling the sign in the front of the Hopewell School. Not only are they doing the road around the school, they basically are working and trying to improve that whole the landscaping around in the front and everything, and they were painting the sign in the front of the building or in front of the school. So if you've not been out there, I welcome you to go out there and look at that. It's really awesome. But just wanted to point that out, and that's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Epperson. I would like to recognize J.T. Barnhart, from the CEO at Tanoa, who is here today. He was going to be willing to answer any questions, but that's been pulled, but I'm sure we'll be talking with you some more. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
before you go on, I was gonna do that too, and see if he wanted to say anything, but I assume he doesn't since it's been pulled. Is that correct? If you want to, while you're coming up, I want to go ahead and mention something I forgot earlier. Some of you may have heard, but Cleveland's Vice Mayor Avery Johnson is in ICU, and family's asking for prayers. He had a reaction to some medication or something, but he's in ICU as we speak, but hopefully doing a little better. Mr. Barnhart, CEO of Tenova, can talk about the meeting that we've had and the meetings that we're going to have if you'd like, or however you want to do it since it's been pulled.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Mayor Davis. Thank you, Chairman Mull. Appreciate the opportunity to address the commissioners. Wanted to discuss a little bit of some of the meetings and the agenda around item C that's been pulled. But the healthcare industry, as all industries, hospitals in particular, hasn't been immune to a lot of the challenges that are happening around the country, and so staffing challenges being the biggest impact of that as of lately, and would be a bad CEO if I didn't stop for a second and just thank the Tenova team, all of our clinicians, our providers, all of our staff for what they do every day to take great quality, compassionate care of our community members. Our emergency room is the front door of the hospital. It's how most of the community, most of our patients access healthcare services. So a lot of focus on that, and we can kind of talk in different meetings going forward. But it's vital. It's a vital department to our organization. We've made some leadership changes in the hospital over the last couple of months, and I think a lot of that will help improve the flow and the throughput of patients. We've got a new CNO. We've got a new nurse director in the ER. We have a new ER medical director. And so really working collaboratively with local EMS, with county leaders to make sure that we're improving the process, that we're improving the experience for our patients, that we're adjusting where we need to from a throughput perspective. We will continue to do that. It's a huge focus for me going forward to continue those collaborations and to make those improvements so that every patient that comes into the hospital, whether it be walking into the ER or coming via ambulance, has as good of an experience as we can offer. So I appreciate your time, and happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Anyone have any questions of Mr. Barnhart?
If not, thank you. We appreciate you being here. One other note, and you can sit down. Speaking of EMS, it was a very busy time, as Commissioner Cry noted this morning at Ocoee Middle with the bus accident. What you may not realize, those kids are taken to school, and then each one of them is looked at by our emergency medical staff. Those aren't in the call reports that you see probably, but it is something that is done. And I had a family member up there this morning for other reasons that got caught in that mess, you might say. It was a very, very busy time right at school starting time and all of this, and parents upset and worried about their kids, but before they're sent home or whatever, they're checked out by the EMS personnel. So that's another good thing that they do for the people of Bradley County. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor. Moving on, can I entertain a motion for approval of the agenda? Have one by Commissioner Goins, second by Commissioner Winters. Any discussion? Call the roll, please, madam.
Yes.
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 Thank you, madam. Moving into the agenda, item A, Commissioner Everson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item A is a resolution authorizing Bradley County Mayor to negotiate and enter into an agreement with W.J. O'Neill Company to provide water heater installation services for Bradley County Sheriff's Office for an amount of $54,781. You can see the details on page 14, and I place that in a form of a motion, Mr.
Okay, I
Chairman.
have a motion. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Thompson. Any discussion? Call the roll, please, madam.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passes. And item B, Commissioner Peak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolution to adopt the 2018 International Building Codes by reference, pages 15 through 27. I place that in form of a motion.
Have a motion, have a second by Commissioner Cry. Do I have any discussion?
There are no changes, I might add, to the previous building codes, but we were late adopting the new ones, so we have to remain within 7 years of the latest adopted code.
Gotcha. Commissioner Blake?
She just answered my question.
Okay. No more questions? Call the roll, please, madam.
Yes.
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 Motion passes. Thank you, madam. Moving on to item D, Commissioner Hughes.
Mr. Chairman, this is a motion to accept Emergency Service Committee recommendations, submit a letter to Congressman Fleischmann and Senator Haggerty requesting assistance with the supply chain issues. It's dealing with emergency vehicles and chips, actually, but I put that in form of question.
Okay. Have a motion, have a second by Commissioner Thompson. Any discussion? Call the roll, please, madam.
Yes.
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 Thank you. Motion passes. Item E, Commissioner Hughes.
Mr. Chairman, this is a motion to accept Emergency Service Committee recommendation to not allow uniform shorts for emergency responders. I put this in the form of a question,
Question or motion?
or motion, I'm sorry.
Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Thompson. Do I have any discussion? Yes, Commissioner Peak.
I understand in factories, they may have rules against shorts. There may be OSHA regulations that regulate no shorts. The city wears them. I don't see a problem with it. First of all, I don't even know why we're voting on it. I don't see how it's in our purview, but okay, if we're having to vote on it, I'll throw this out there. So my guys on the construction sites wear shorts, and I mean we are in dangerous predicaments sometimes, and they still wear shorts. I think it's just a preference. I don't think having pants on keeps them any more safe than having shorts on in some instances. But these guys, if they're going to a fire, are going to throw on the fire suits. So they're going to be protected. It's going to go down. I don't see an issue. I don't even know why it's an issue. They want to wear shorts. I say let them wear shorts.
Thank you, Mr. Peak. Commissioner Slater, then Commissioner Hughes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recognize Mark Rogers to come to the podium and speak, please.
Sure. Welcome, Mark. See, you're hobbling.
First, I'd like to thank the commission for allowing me the opportunity to be here. As said, my name is Mark Rogers. I'm president of BCR Local 4868 from the International Association of Firefighters. I was originally going to be here to answer questions and provide some insight regarding the letter requesting consideration for a uniform change that would allow firefighters to wear shorts in order to mitigate heat. Saturday, I was made aware of an article in the Daily Banner in regards to this issue being discussed at the Emergency Services Committee, a meeting that we, as the union and the requesting party, were not invited to attend. I'd like to read a statement in regards to the comments made at that meeting and published in the Banner. The letter was not anonymous. In no less than 3 places on the email were the identifying marks indicating that the letter attached was coming from the Local 4868. Also, the first line of the letter identifies us as the requesting party. First request was made June 14th, and we received no response from any party. Second request was made July 19th, and once again, we got no response. Any type of answer, no, yes, let's talk about it, maybe, nothing was received. This request was made by Local 4868 to possibly assist firefighters with having a chance to better regulate core body temperature and recover faster from the exertion placed on them in response to a call. If you feel that there must be a specific individual name and face for the local, then consider that to be me. We attached 3 URLs to the letter. I questioned if anyone bothered to open them and read the reports. I could have attached no less than 30 others to indicate and give scientific research and evidence pertaining to the effects of heat stress on firefighters. Heat stress is a cumulative effect, and being able to manage that stress better would improve not only our physical abilities, but the mental capacity and performance to do our job as well. Bloodborne pathogens, glass, metal, and heat are among the risks we face in everyday work. That is why we wear PPE. Proper PPE is worn every time firefighters are dispatched to calls that would necessitate protection from those hazards. Comments about responding to a crash in shorts were short-sighted and completely erroneous. Nowhere in the request or in the research provided do we ask not to wear the appropriate PPE on a call. As far as the NFPA comment about shorts, there is no place in NFPA 1710, Standard for Organization and Deployment of Fire Suppression Operations, Emergency Medical Operations, and Special Operations to the public by career fire departments, that states shorts cannot be worn. In truth, NFPA 1975, Standard on Emergency Services Work Apparel, lists T-shirts in paragraph 6.2.1 subsection 3 and shorts in paragraph 6.2.2 subsection 2 as appropriate attire. There are design and testing requirements to be met for shorts to be effective, just as there are for pants, shirts, helmets, gloves, turnout gear. There is no fire versus non-fire emergency listed. The portion that is being misunderstood, I believe, is from NFPA 1850, Standard on Selection, Care, and Maintenance of Protective Ensembles. It reads verbatim, 4.5.3, the public should not be exposed at any time except during emergency operations to soiled or potentially contaminated ensembles or elements. I want to reiterate that point, except during emergency operations. We don't wear it when we go install smoke detectors or anything else. Anytime firefighters dispatched to a call that would have any hazard exposure, they will be wearing the appropriate PPE. The timing remarks indicate a misunderstanding of how firefighters work or respond. We don't change clothes to get in turnout gear. The turnout gear is put on over our clothing. The state of Tennessee mandates that a firefighter must be able to put on the protective ensemble in 60 seconds or less. Another 60 seconds is mandated for putting on the SCBA. You cannot pass our academy, let alone be state certified, if you cannot perform that. Waking up at 3 a.m., getting out to the bay and into their gear, then into the truck and out the door and responding to the call in less than 2 minutes is a task that we routinely accomplish. The aesthetics and ugly legs comment was also way off mark. Is the Emergency Service Committee suggesting that the department discriminate in their hiring practice because somebody is not pleasing to the eye? If someone has a facial scar or acne, a cauliflower ear, or any other disfigurement, should they be passed over for employment because they're not pretty? Not once has a patient or victim of a fire accident complained that I am bald, somebody else may be overweight, or that my t-shirt was wrinkled at 2 o'clock in the morning. They only cared that we showed up to help. These types of remarks should not be used in any committee or board meeting. I also want to say that there should be no anger, ill will, or retaliation to any member of Bradley County Fire Rescue for this matter coming before the committee, as there has been in the past. Breaking up crews and moving individuals to other stations only hurts the citizens of the county by disrupting crew unity and cohesiveness. This is not intended as an attack on the department, only a request for consideration on what we believe is a safety issue that can have some mitigation applied to it in a logical manner. We want to ensure that information is clear and understood before it is being dismissed. I want to close by saying if you're not state commission certified firefighter, that you may not have the knowledge to make a conscientious, well thought out, fair and balanced decision on any matter related to fire service, and you may want to talk to someone it is before you take a vote on it. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions regarding the letter or the reference material, you can respond to that email address. I believe everyone received one this last go-around. We will respond back.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Mark. Anybody have any questions? Thank you. Mr. Thompson.
I'd like to ask the county attorney. I second that motion. Can I make a substitute motion?
Sure.
Okay, I'd like to make a substitute motion that the fire and rescue department leave dress code up to the leadership.
Okay. We have a substitute motion asking that the fire and dress code be left to the leadership of the fire. Have a second by Commissioner Cry. Any discussion? Commissioner Hughes.
I think the question I was going to speak a second ago, the reason this came up was for two reasons. One, the funds, if it is approved, where are these funds going to come from? It's not in the budget. The other was the safety is what came up during the committee.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Raper.
I'm in fully support of a department head anytime. That's what they're elected for, or appointed for, and I'm not in the business of overruling them. But we do have to have an appeals process, and I feel like that hearing Mr. Mark there that they haven't sufficiently listened to his appeals, so I'm concerned about that.
Thank you, Mr. Raper. Commissioner Slater.
With all due respect to Commissioner Thompson's motion, in my opinion, this should never have been brought to the commission. The chief should have made that decision. He chose not to. He chose to bring this to the EMS committee. So I am not in favor of a substitute motion to take it back to him. He didn't make the decision to begin with.
Thank you, Mr. Slater. Any other comments? Commissioner Blake.
With respects to the funding, it would obviously come out of their fund. I mean, the fire department has their own fund, 121. Can't give them any more money. You can't take any money away from them. So, whatever apparel that they have, whatever gear that they have, it's in their budget request, and their budget passed, so it would come out of their budget.
Commissioner Cry, and then Commissioner Epperson.
I seconded the motion on the substitute motion primarily because I'm of the opinion it's an area that should have never came before the county commission. It should have been handled at the management level. That's why we have supervisors and bosses. And that's the reason I presented seconded the substitute motion.
Thank you, Mr. Cry. Commissioner Epperson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Hughes mentioned that the committee had talked about safety concerns. Could you give us, this commission, some details of what those safety concerns
One of the things
are spoken about?
One of the issues came up was working wrecks. A lot of the calls from the fire department is from working wrecks. Many times wrecks have glass that has metal tangled. They have to get in the middle of this. The other was a time thing. I think he alluded on it to where they would have to change into bunker gear to even go inside a house to check on someone that was ill or what have you. So that was the safety issues that come in, plus bloodborne pathogens and so on.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Peak and Commissioner Winters.
Well, that makes no sense because if you're worried about the safety of them, they're in their PPE. If they respond to any call whatsoever, it doesn't matter. They have to put on PPE. So if they're in their PPE, then what's it matter what they have under them, shorts or pants? I don't think this was thought through. What I'm really disappointed is that they didn't listen to their own firemen. They didn't bring them all in and discuss it. He said he had 2 opportunities that they asked to be heard or to meet with them and got denied both times, or didn't even get a response. Not denied, just ignored completely. So, yeah, I think they should be able to wear the shorts. The leadership there needs to listen or at least have a conversation with these guys. But if we're talking about safety, you can't say anything about safety. They have PPE on, no matter what they respond to, because that's the law. That's required. So they're covered.
Thank you, Mr. Peak. Mr. Winters.
Mr. Chairman, I'm on this committee. I do not presume to know all that you do with fire department. I don't presume to know all of that. I don't know any of us that made fun of anybody having bad legs. I didn't have any part of that conversation. This was not a demeaning meeting. Basically what we did, we asked the chief what his opinion was, and it was to keep you all in long pants, okay? That it was for your safety, and that's what we responded to. It had nothing to do, to be honest with you, I did not know we had a union for until I saw your letter, evidently your letter coming through. But the point is, all we do is follow line and staff here. And when your leadership team tells us that it's in your best interest for this to happen, that's what we did, okay? So beyond that, if there's needed to be more discussion, which I'm very much for, but I do think it should be spread out with not only that leadership team, but the the men that are in those vehicles and women that are doing the work that have some say-so in that too. Not just coming from the leadership that we talked to. That's where it came down when the chief looked at us and said he felt that was the best. I'm not putting him on a bus. I think he's a great guy. I support him in the hard work that he does. At the same time, that's where we were. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Winters. I think Commissioner Thompson has called for the question.
One other question. You define your motion about leadership. Who are we talking?
Substitute motion.
I know, but the leadership that you identify.
The leadership of the fire department rescue make decisions on what the dress code.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on the substitute motion by Commissioner Thompson and a second by Commissioner Cry. We have had discussion. Madam, would you call the roll?
No.
Yes.
No.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No. Yes.
No.
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 So the motion failed. We're back to the original motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Rapper.
may I make another substitute motion, please?
Sure.
I would like to table this today and return it back to committee and give the chance to give appeals to Mr. Fairbanks, and then he make his decision, whatever he thinks deemed necessary at that point.
So we'll table it and return it back to Emergency Services Committee for further discussion with all parties involved. Is that correct? Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
just postpone.
true. Postpone.
Postpone. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a second for that? Got a second by Commissioner Winters. Any discussion? None being, call the roll, madam.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
No.
Nope.
No.
Yes.
No. No.
No.
No.
No.
Okay, back to the original motion. Yes, Commissioner Davis.
With all due respect, the committee brought this to this commission to decide, and so we should decide today, even though I don't believe that we should be discussing uniform issues, and I think it's micromanaging, and I hope this is not the way that we're going. But it's here, and we should vote on it and make the decision today.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Any other discussion? Then call the roll, please, madam.
Yes.
Yes.
Let me get this right. Yes is agreeing with this?
With the shorts, or
With
not,
the shorts?
against the shorts.
So a yes would be a no to shorts. Okay.
No.
It's
I
a
know,
negative.
but what Commissioner Peak just said, shorts, voting for shorts would be a no. No.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
No.
No.
No. Here.
So this would be in support of them wearing shorts or pants?
A no vote.
Not wearing
No
shorts.
vote. Not wearing shorts, okay.
No.
No. No.
No, no.
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 So the motion fails. Thank you.
So just for clarification, the motion fails, so they should be allowed to wear shorts. That's what we voted.
No.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, no.
Yeah. We're not wear shorts.
Yeah.
We have voted just not to allow what was requested here. They can go further back. That's correct. Thank you. Item F, Commissioner Peak.
Just for clarification then, how did we vote on this then?
They can do their own thing.
They can or can't wear shorts according to this?
Yeah.
Which was to not allow.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. So now it is leadership's turn to step in and discuss it with their firemen. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item F, resolution approving Santec Waste Services to add solid waste processing by solidification at the Bradley County landfill pursuant to Tennessee Code annotated Title 69. As the chair of the landfill committee, this is on the agenda, and I place it in form of a motion.
Okay. Have a second by Commissioner Slater. Any discussion? Call the roll.
No.
Oop, Commissioner Blake, I'm sorry.
You don't mind.
You've been gone a couple weeks, I'm not used to your hands.
If you don't mind, I'd like to chat with the manager, or if you would recognize him, I'd appreciate that.
Sure. If you don't come up.
Good evening. I appreciate you taking the time to be with us. And the following comments I want you to know, please do not take personal, all right? If you were to take you out of the equation, put somebody else in there, I'll say the exact same thing, all right? Fair? Just a few questions, clarifications. I wasn't here last week, and that's my apologies on that. But from what I understand, Republic, you're in the process of submitting an RFQ or RFP or something of that nature to Cobb County.
Yes, that's correct.
That is correct, right? Are there any other entities? Cobb County is a municipality. Is there any other municipalities that you're pursuing as well?
At this time, there's no active RFPs, but certainly there's other opportunities we would be looking to pursue.
Understood. Yeah, so if you were to pursue those other opportunities, would you feel obligated to inform the commission that you were pursuing those opportunities?
Probably not. I thought it was appropriate, given the
That's fair.
discussions that were actively ongoing, to be transparent in what happened.
Right, so now we know, we know the thing. What is the current life of the landfill? And I'll follow up with, just go, who gets to determine that life?
So the life of the landfill is permitted through the state of Tennessee. A total amount of disposal capacity, or airspace is what it's called.
Mhm.
Off the top of my head, I don't know exactly what that time frame is. It's in the range of 25 to 30 years at this time.
25 to 30 years.
Correct.
And the reason why I ask that is because it's my understanding, I could be wrong, won't be the first time, it is the life of the landfill is essentially the effective date of the contract. The contract goes until the life of the landfill, and then that's when the contract is done and over with, whatever legal terms we use, but that's the effective date.
That's correct.
Right.
I don't know about effective date. That's the.
Well,
the-
I'm using
it's
some
a life
language.
It's a life of site contract,
And-
so we're under contract to operate it until the landfill is fully closed.
Right, so so, and if you want to, you can say the contract is in in place and being adhered to until the 15 to 20 years. And you said it's the state of Tennessee that determines that life. I'm sure some department up here in Nashville or something like that. The other points I'd like to make is you mentioned last week that we, Republic, has been charged with maximizing the landfill's financial return. Did I hear that correctly?
No, I don't believe that's what I said. I think what I said was I'm maximizing the value of your asset for the citizens of Bradley County. So value can be measured in more than one way, certainly financially.
Okay, well, that's fair. But financial, the financial piece of it, though. I guess when you made that statement that you're charged, who charged you with this?
So that's our contract with the county.
So the county charged you with that. So isn't it fair to say if we charged you with that, then we can quote unquote uncharge you with that?
I'm not really sure what you're asking. I'm sorry.
You're using the position that you've been charged to maximize the value of this asset, the landfill, and one of those assets is the financial. And you got that charge from us, the county commission, or the Bradley County. And I guess I was wondering if you received that charge from us, then shouldn't we be allowed to change that charge, alter that charge, or?
So we have an operating agreement. We have a signed contract by both parties, and that's really the governing instrument here that we're both working under.
Right now, I'm primarily focusing on the financial piece. I understand there's other components to an asset, sure. I'm sure you're aware that a few years ago, Santac/Republic, whatever, asked for an easement so that they could take the methane gas that was collected and eventually sell it on the market or something like that. And they asked for this. We passed a resolution giving that easement. Do you know whatever happened with that initiative?
I do not. So Republic Services does not have the gas rights for that facility are through another entity. So at this point, I think there's plans to put a gas pipeline in there, but nothing constructed.
So wouldn't it be fair to say that to maximize the asset of the landfill, you should go for, well, we gave you the easement like you requested through resolution. If you're charged with maximizing the asset of this landfill, you should have fulfilled that part of it. We did our part, but you didn't do yours.
These things don't happen overnight. Certainly, it takes a lot of time to get an energy project up off the ground, and I do that's in the works currently.
With respects to the financial piece of it, again, that's the part I'm kind of focusing on a little bit. You may have been told earlier, last week or week before that, when we passed our budget, we knew, because we'd had some testimony before, that revenue, I think, if I go quote, we have a revenue problem, I think is what I was told. We put that in our budget. We recognized that, and we lowered the projection from Republic. So from our point of view, we don't need any more sludge in the landfill. What you have right now is sufficient, so to speak. Now I want to get to I guess the critical point to it. You came before this commission on March 14th in a work session, and I specifically asked you about this resolution that we're about to vote on and the ramifications thereof. I'd like for Lori to play that because I think it's imperative to this whole discussion. So if you will pay attention to this right here, it won't take but a second. Thank you. So I asked you, hopefully, and it was clear, if this, whether this passes or not, you would not go back to Cobb County. And if I understand it correctly, your answer to that question on March 14th, you said no. So I guess my question to you today is, why are you going back to Cobb County with this, whether or not we approve this or not?
So I understood your question back then in March to be in specific that particular waste stream that we had coming in and voluntarily made the decision to not bid on again. So that's specifically what I was referring to, and I apologize if there was some.
Well, if you don't mind my apology, I'm going to actually try to hold you to that. You said that you would not do that. I think you should honor what you said on that. This resolution passes.
Thank you, Mr. Blake. Commissioner Hughes, and then Commissioner Slater, and then Commissioner Peak.
Mr. Chairman, although I think my answer's already been answered
Okay.
somewhat, I do have a question though about Cobb County. My understanding, and hopefully I can be corrected on this, is that they changed their processing of sludge. Now, instead of just sending everything to the landfill, it's processed in such a way that it is used for fertilizer. So what would be coming from Cobb County, if you was to get that back, would be very little. Is that correct or is that wrong?
There's a number of different wastewater treatment facilities there, number of different plants, a number of different ways that material can be managed. The one facility, yes, is being handled. However, others.
The one that you're asking for the contract on is one that does or doesn't?
If it's being land applied, there's no need for it to go to it.
Okay. Do you have any idea how many tons you would get from there?
I think they're estimating it's about 100 tons per day.
All right, no more questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Slater.
So where are we on the cash issue?
We are immediately when I left here last week, just as I committed would, started putting those new programs in place. Takes a little bit of approval from our corporate office to get sort of the checks and balances on cash handling happening, but absolutely in the works. As soon as I can get it started there, we will be.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Slater. Commissioner Peak.
Thank you, Chairman. So these guys are in the business to make money. I know we won't stand up here and attack them for taking sludge or whatever. They're in the business to make money. That's what they took our landfill over for. Do you know anybody that would take on a business that is not in the business of making money? They're not going to just, I know you said charge them with maximizing the returns. Well, we don't have to charge them for maximizing the returns or not. They're going to do that on their own free will because that's what people are in the business to do. I'm in the business to make money. I'm not going to go out here and give it away every chance I get. So if I have opportunity to maximize my profits, that's what I'm going to do. So we cannot criminalize them for that part of their business. And our contract is a contract. Now, I think we've talked to 100 million attorneys plus our own attorney. They've all said this contract is legal and we can't change it or renegotiate it time after time. So there are a few things here. They're already taking solidification. They want a permit to solidify on site. The main concern I've been hearing from people is what is in the solidified material going into the landfill. That was their number one concern. It's already going there, and we can't stop that because it's in the contract that we can't tell them what they can or cannot take. And that goes to sludge. So in March, I'm sure when he stood up here and said, we're not going to take any more from Cobb County, it's because they thought we were going to vote on something immediately so they could stop bleeding dry. their profits that they are in the business to make. So, I'm sure that's what he meant. I won't put words in his mouth, but that's how I took it, is that at that time, if we proceeded and we voted on this solidification so they could go one way or the other in the next couple of months, but here now we have postponed this until the end of August, so now I know they have to be hemorrhaging because they're a business, once again, to make money. So I'm sure they're losing money, not taking what they have not been taking. So if we don't allow them to have the solidification on site, then they will revert back to taking sludge from any county. I'm sure they'll have to make money. That's how they will stay in business. And we will have someone to operate the landfill. So if we do vote for the solidification permit, then the residents are still going to complain because it's still going to stink, right? I mean, it's a landfill. It's going to stink. There's obviously not a solution that will make anyone happy, in my opinion, except to close the landfill. And I don't see that as an option because we do have a contract. So unless you want to hemorrhage taxpayers' money for the next 100 years in getting out of a contract, I don't think that's an option. So no matter how this commission votes, Bradley County and this commission will always be blamed for the landfill, its smells, its issues, even though our hands are tied according to our attorneys on the contract. No one wants to live next to a landfill, and I wasn't a commissioner when they made this decision to have a landfill, but no one will ever be happy living next to a landfill, no matter how good or how bad it smells. But pertaining to this vote, if we don't vote for the solidification, you're going to be a bad commissioner, and if you do vote for solidification, you're going to be a bad commissioner. So just weigh it in your own mind and the consequences thereof. And remember, these guys are in here to do business, and they are in here to do business with the county as well. But they do have a fiduciary responsibility to their owners to maximize their returns. Thank you. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Peak, Commissioner Winters, and then Commissioner Epperson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In our last meeting, we both said that we didn't want sludge coming from North Georgia. I think all of us should look at what this resolution is basically saying. It is saying that we'd add solid waste processing by solidification. They're already getting solidification. It's happening already on our landfill. It's just not processed there. It's processed elsewhere, and it's coming to this landfill. So in reality, it's already there, correct? All you're asking for is you can do the processing here. And you said you would do it in a way that it would not cause these concerns that we have, right?
That's correct.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So we're just talking about a process on the grounds rather than being shipped in from here from other places by a company you're having to pay, correct? So that's where you're saving your money.
That's correct.
Right? So we're just looking at whether that process is being, because as we've all, has been said very well, we have a contract that says this company can bring whatever they want onto our landfill. It's in the contract. They should be doing their fiduciary responsibility and also their responsibility to the citizens and to us, what you're trying to do, correct? So all we're talking about here in this one is looking at whether the process can be done on our landfill rather than in Nashville or wherever you're having it done at. I don't know. So that was clear to me in the last meeting, the first time I'd ever realized that solidification was being done only elsewhere. And then it's being brought in here and put in our landfill. So we're just saying you can do the process here without having to ship it in. So that was opened my mind as to where this is. And we're still in the concern of odor. We're still in the concern on the life challenges for those that live around there. And this list of things that you're saying you're going to do is to bring transparency in here so that people that are bringing it all to us can bring it to you or their representatives, and you can look at how you can make them happy as well as us. Is that what I'm hearing here?
Yep, well said.
Okay. So it looks like, and the last meeting was the first time I knew solidification. I asked you about the process, and then I found out about the process, but then thank Commissioner Peak identified with you and us that it was already coming anyway. If it was already coming anyway, I don't see I do like the transparency part. I do like the fact that you're going to build a mobilization here that puts you all in the seat that we sit in a lot, and then deal with that before it comes to us, correct? Okay, so if we're just looking at processing here, then I think that's something that's pretty simple, as far as I'm concerned. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Winters. Mr. Epperson and Commissioner Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a question. The sludge that you were taking from Cobb County, that's coming from a wastewater treatment plant versus the kind of solidification process that you are wanting us to approve based off of not to amend the contract, but to satisfy TDEC's requirements that you get county approval. Is there a difference in the odors between the two? Because I almost would think that the odors would be completely different as far as the effects on the community in the first district.
Yeah, and I'm sure the residents who lived around the landfill would sort of attest to this, that when the sludge, the municipal wastewater sludge that was come in from that particular treatment plant, you could almost tell when the truck was coming, that the odor would follow with it. Very, very pungent, very traveled considerably with that sort of that biological type odor, and none of the industrial type of process materials that we're talking about carry with it that same odor. They're not biological in nature. There would be very different characterizations of it.
Okay. And then you also stated too to this commission that if we would to approve this solidification process, this would be more lucrative than what you were basically doing before with the receiving the sludge from Cobb County. Is that correct?
That is definitely our goal. It has the potential.
And then also, I'm talking to a lot of the people that live around that landfill, and they were, you know, a lot of them had concerns of, you know, what would their guarantees be that, you know, if we did approve this process of you solidifying the on the premises instead of just having it done somewhere else and then bringing it to the landfill, what is their guarantees for you not going back out and trying to get the sludge coming from wastewater treatment plants? And I asked if y'all would consider amending the contract to basically, you know, when you negotiate things and contracts, usually it's a give and take, and y'all are like, you don't want to amend the contract to say that we won't take sludge, because what guarantees us? I mean, next month, if we approve this, next month you start getting some sludge from Cobb County, and then you do both things, and then the residents around that area have to deal with both things then.
And I certainly can appreciate the question. Thanks for asking it. I think there's two parts to it. First part is that this action doesn't require a change in the existing operating agreement that we have. It's a permitting action through the state
I
agency.
understand that.
So that's why we don't feel like there's a need to amend the existing contract. The contract covers everything it is. The second piece is, you know, operating a stable and healthy and compliant solid waste landfill. You can only take so much wet material for a lot of reasons, but mostly out of stability of the facility. So our goal is to, you know, if we only have X amount of capacity for wet tons, our goal is to put all of those as that industrial sort of liquid waste, part of the solidification process, and not part of the municipal wastewater treatment sludge process.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying there, but you know, I have a hard time voting for this because I mean, just because, I mean, and also, I mean, we have no recourse of if there would to be problems there. I asked for, you know, would you all amend the contract to let this commission to make a decision on whether to suspend operations temporarily or indefinite if that would need to arise, and the answer was also no to that too. I appreciate you answering my questions and appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Epperson. Commissioner Hughes and Commissioner Thompson.
I do have one question on the liquid waste. If I understand this correct, the way you'll do it, just bring it in, liquid, weigh that liquid, bring it, solidify it, and then put it in, correct? By 100% correct.
Yep, that is correct. That's the process.
So in essence, what you're doing is you're bringing in a tonnage, people that's up, you're adding more material to it, and you fill up the landfill quicker. That's just added volume to it. Yes, quicker.
So all of these tons fall with, again, it falls within our existing contract. And in our existing contract, we have a limitation on the total number of tons we're allowed to bring in Bradley County landfill on a daily basis.
But
So
all
as
you're
long as we're,
measuring on is what you brought in. Mix. Therefore, you're putting more weight in than actually.
I see what you're saying. So typically, we also use waste streams for the solidification process also. So like if there's a animal bedding or other sorts of processed material like that, our goal certainly is to find those types of materials that come in, go across the scales, and get weighed and have for the process.
And the other goes back to Commissioner Peak. You are 100 business very here to make money. It's up to us sitting here to protect us. All right. So the way I'm looking at it, filling it up quicker than that asset really.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Thompson, Commissioner Blake, and then Commissioner Peak.
Got two questions, Mr. Chairman. One, county attorney. We vote no on this today. Does it make any difference at all? Maybe, towards tonnage or something like this would make it, wouldn't change it all. I'm not really for it either, but, got a contract and we gotta live up to that contract. And also, I don't know why we're here today, sit here today and worry about, trying to get along with the city of Cleveland. And when our problems would be solved if Cleveland would use that landfill over there. Instead of hauling their, garbage up to, McMinn County. And the tonnage is probably the problem here anyway. You got to have the tonnage to operate, and I understand that. And I cannot understand why we talk about having meetings with the city, why we don't have a meeting with the city and sit down and talk to them about this, and see if they wouldn't be part of our landfill. And we could solve that problem without sludge whatsoever. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson, Commissioner Blake, and then Commissioner Peak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if this is about process and only process, then why are we talking about tonnage? I mean, I apologize, I don't know how much tonnage you're allowed per day. For example, let's say it's 1 ton, just to have the math, make it easy. So I'm assuming right now you're not bringing in 1 ton of whatever, because as it's just been mentioned, the processing is happening outside of Bradley County, and you bring it in. If your 1 ton is your cap, you should be able to hit your 1 ton every single day, because what do you care, right? I mean, I didn't mean that you don't care, but the processing, if that's what this is all about, your tonnage shouldn't matter, and your revenue should be just fine. Obviously, you could probably make more money because you're processing it and charge and pass that on to the consumer piece of it. There's your extra piece, but the tonnage shouldn't matter. Where am I missing?
I was just responding to Commissioner Hughes' question about tonnage. I haven't brought up tonnage prior to that.
But right now, again, I don't know the exact tonnage. I have to go back. But if it's 1 ton a day, you should be able to maximize your tonnage every single day with whatever you bring, whatever you're allowed to bring in right now, without being able to have this resolution passed.
Yeah, this resolution has no impact on the number of tons we can or cannot bring in. Correct.
So this in-house processing, we'll call it, in Bradley County processing, is what the revenue, that's gonna give you the revenue that you seek, so to speak. I mean,
That's
so, all right, thank you.
Commissioner Peak.
And just to clarify, you can only take in so many tons a day, and the life of it's not gonna fill up any quicker because you don't maximize, even if you maximized it, that is the lifespan that the the state has determined is 15 to 25 if you take in what you're supposed to every day, if you maxed it out every day. And if you don't, then it expands. That's how come sometimes whenever we would have landfill committees, the mayor would say, hey, our life expectancy is 30 years now, or 35. We gained 5 years because last year we didn't bring in that many tons. So that's how you gain years, and that's how you lose years, I guess, if you were to. But you can't lose years because you can't go over what the state maximum is per day. So we can't fill it up any quicker, but we could expand it if we didn't take in as much, so to say. Okay. So then to go back to some other comments that I heard, they were talking about if you don't get the solidification permit request to do it on site, then your only recourse is to get more sludge. That's it. That's the only thing left. And to try to get more solidified product. But if you're not solidifying on site, it's cheaper for them to do it elsewhere sometimes. And that's what you're wanting to do, is maximize it there and get them to bring it on site so that you can maximize your returns. So if you did get the solidification contract, then the state regulates how much of that you can have, and it regulates how much of the sludge you can have. So much water waste and so much of the solidified. So you won't be taking in more water waste than what you would be allowed to with your solidification.
Yep, you got it.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Peak. Any other questions? Madam, call the roll.
No.
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 Yes.
No.
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 Yes.
No.
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 Motion fails. Thank you, ma'am. Item G, Commissioner Davis.
This is a motion to accept the Nikon total station from the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office. If you need more information, see page 30, but this is just a donation that we talked about last week, so we're thankful for Hamilton County helping us out.
Second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? Call the roll, please, madam.
Yes.
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 Thank you, madam. Motion passes. Item H, before we go into the public hearing, go ahead, Commissioner Hughes.
Mr. Chairman, this is a resolution to rezone from Forestry Agriculture Residential District to C2 General Commercial District property located at 5943 and 5945 Georgetown Road, identified on or by tax map 026 parcel 002.002. These can be seen in page 31 and page 32. I put this form in motion.
Okay, do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Goins. At this point, we're going to a public hearing. Anyone who wants to speak for or against this, if you're coming up to the microphone, state your name and being none. Any questions, commissioners? Call the roll, please, then, madam.
Yes.
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 Motion passes. Thank you, madam. Now, communication from the audience. Anyone who wants to speak before the commission, if you'll come up, state your name and address. Thank you, sir.
Hi, Mark Cooper, 125 Reserve, Georgetown. Thank you for letting me come up and talk. Just want to make one comment before I get into what I wanted to talk about. I'm a retired firefighter. These gentlemen, I know exactly what they're saying. We are under so many federal regulations that we have to abide by. And this is not a just off-the-cuff plan to just wear shorts. It's been proven, and I'm not going to go on with what he said, but I just say shame on anybody that wants to make a personal decision based on, they don't like the way shorts look. It's more about the health of the firefighters, and there is no inherent safety issues because, as Commissioner Peak said, always wearing our PPE when we are on calls. So anyway, just had to say that. So what I'm up here to ask is for your help. Myself and a group of us have been pursuing the Election Commission, as you probably remember from last time I spoke. We've been pursuing them for on the issues of voter integrity and transparency in this county. So literally for months, we've been a combination of us emailing, calling, speaking face-to-face, writing actual handwritten letters to the commission, trying to get a meeting with all of the members of the commission, chairman, members of the election commission. And to this day, we still are completely ignored. They nod their heads, and then we never hear another thing. Primary issue today that I want to bring up has to do with meeting notifications. And I want to use you guys, the commission, as an example of what we'd love to see from the Election Commission. Your website is awesome. You guys have a very easy to use calendar system. All your meetings are posted. The agendas are posted. The minutes are posted. You have videotape processes for all your meetings. I mean, the public really knows what's going on in this room. And I thank you for that. We all thank you for that. Fortunately, across the street there at the Election Commission, it's complete opposite. And there's absolutely no transparency. The only way meetings are announced to the public, if you're not aware of this, I'm gonna let you know. It's a piece of paper taped to the window or the door of the office. Now, I think 25, 30 years ago, that was probably standard practice for a lot of commissions and places that had meetings, but this is 2022, and as you all agree, most people get their news and their information from electronic sources. So what I'm asking right now is, can you all do anything to try to get a calendar system set up on the Election Commission's website that matches yours? I understand I had a nice conversation with one of my commissioners last week, and we talked for a long time. Really appreciate his time, but he agreed with me 100%. He said, I don't see why this is even being discussed. The same IT firm that does the commission's website also does the Election Commission's website. So how hard would it be to just add a calendar? That way the rest of us can check out the meetings and actually attend. Because without that transparency, it makes it look like they don't want us to attend. And I'm just telling you from my heart and the lack of communication with them that's exactly how it comes off to the public. So if you can help us with that, I know that we have this issue with them being a state. They're monitored by the state, but you also approve the budget for the Election Commission, and you also pay the administrator over there's salary. It comes out of the county budget. I'm not asking for the world here. We're asking for a couple clicks of a mouse, and an IT director can certainly add that calendar, and I just don't understand why that could not be a reality. The example that really hits home is that this last election in August, we had 4 days between the day of the election and the certification meeting in which the commission got back together, not a regular meeting, a special meeting, to certify the election. 4 days, including a Saturday and Sunday in that 4 days. So that's part of 2 business days. I happened to call on Monday at about noon just to check later in the week or next week when the meeting was going to be. And the gal says, oh, it's in 50 minutes. You know, so I was middle of mowing my lawn, had to jump in the truck and get over here so I could be at the meeting, but that's unacceptable. So I'm just asking, can we please just be, you know, make this easier? I don't think that's asking a lot. As a taxpayer, that if it's money well spent, it's money well spent.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, Mark. Commissioner Peak.
Can we add to our work session next week to discuss recommendations to send to the election commission? I don't know that we can do anything with them, but we can always send recommendations, right? We like to stick our nose in everything, so why not this? We could recommend something to them.
If you want to put that on the
Sure, let's
agenda,
put that
you
on the
can.
work session to make recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Peak. Commissioner Epperson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, and I agree, we could do recommendations. I would just, I know that they've been bringing this before the commission for numerous times, and even said himself that he knows the oversight is by the state of Tennessee. I would just like to ask the group, or you, sir, how many times have you been to Nashville to see about sharing your concerns like you have with this commission? It's a 2.5-hour drive to Nashville. I go there a lot. And just curious, just to hear, say, in the last 6 months, how many times have you been to Nashville and went before the committee that oversees this election commission and probably oversees every election committee throughout the state of Tennessee? So maybe we need to get you some information on the committees that you need to go and see in Nashville and try to. Okay. That should be helpful too. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak before the commission? Ma'am, if you'll come up to the microphone like we're supposed to do. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sorry, I wasn't aware that was a regulation to tag on to Mark's comment. But is that an open invitation for you to get us in the door? Because we've been going back and forth and back and forth. I would love it if you could get us in the door in Nashville.
Well, what I'm saying is I think we should try to work on trying to get y'all some information on the committees that you need to go and see in Nashville, because they're the ones that have the oversight. We don't have any oversight, and
You did approve
that's
the
been
budget,
mentioned
though.
by this commission and also by y'all when you get up and speak at the podium, and it's become repetitive. And
It is.
and we would love to help, and then I'm just offering that's something that we ought to do, is try to get y'all some information on
we will welcome
what
the help.
committees y'all need to go to.
Have you
in
heard of the
Nashville.
parable of the woman who goes to the judge over and over and over? The judge who doesn't want to give her justice? Maybe you should read it.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else want to speak to the commission?
Elmer Earls, south side of the landfill, 156 York Circle. I want to thank you all for voting down this resolution on the point of. Thank you for not letting the stink come back in the air of the landfill, because the thing is, the sludge is bad enough. We got it more under control, but the thing is, with open processing, when they open the valve, it's going to be stench from now to the rest of our existence. And I want to thank you all so much for voting that thing down. And I appreciate everything. And God bless all of you, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Earls. Commissioner Peak.
Just to make a point of clarification, Mr. Elmer Earls, I won't be here for you to come and complain to, but you do know they're going to go after all the sludge they can get now. So when that starts stinking and you come up here and start complaining, I'm gonna be in the audience with you, pointing my finger at you. Okay, yeah, I understand that. Yeah. I understand that, but you do understand that those monitors are just gonna tell us it's stinking. That's it. We can't do anything about the stink. We just have monitors. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Earls. Thank you, Mr. Earls. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Ross.
Get in the middle of that. I'd like to thank the commissioner for bringing up about the issue about the accepting cash, because that was something that had been announced that it was going to be accepted, and we're still in this period where, where it's not accepted, and that's ridiculous. A lot of people who don't have, maybe don't have nor want to have the use of their cards and all types of electronic money conveyance systems used, and I understand that because I mean we see how much chicanery goes on with all that throughout the country. So the process of accepting cash, which I don't want to mind anybody except the fact that it says right on your dollar, it says acceptable for all debts, public and private. So I don't know why a private corporation has any ability to say we don't accept the currency of a nation. I mean, that just seems to me like, you're violating people who you're being discriminatory because these people may not have the system to pay for that, but yet you think that you should be able to take that out on the people who are the least able to fight. I just think it's ridiculous. The situation with the election commission, here's what I find. You've got the city school board, the city school system, the county school system, and the commission all do an excellent job of putting your meetings out. There's in the paper, all of these things follow the same criteria. It seems to be an accepted criteria. But now we have an election commission who doesn't feel that they have to follow any type of criteria. And because, and I do put this on the state, because the state level of ambiguity in the statute is clearly there. It's not well written. It appears that it was written for a time when people had ethics and morals, and we seem to have slipped away from that. But I don't, if they don't see fit to actually put that on their website, would it be impossible that y'all could just attach that to yours, make an addition to it or something? Because a lot of people use your website anyway. That would be a good addition. When we have voter participation that barely reaches 10%, and you have an election commission who feels that they don't have to be transparent, I think that's disgusting at best. And I know a lot of you, because I've spoken to some of you about what goes on, and it's ridiculous. And that needs to end. We have well-paid employees, and the job is not getting done. The job's not getting done. If you think that there's absolute integrity in that office, you are mistaken. And if you look all over the country, so get away from the mainstream news and get in and start digging and seeing what's going on. And it's going to be coming to conservative, it's already here. It's coming to conservative communities. You better watch out. You want integrity in your elections, you better watch out. We better get out in front of this now. They are required to have transparency. They do everything to avoid transparency, and I'm sick of it. People who have lost elections here, you might want to question about what's going on. You might want to question what's going on. And we're not going to stand here and allow this to happen anymore. You know what? You guys are doing a good job. You let people speak. You're open. Much better than the school board. And So we appreciate that, but we're also saying, hey, look, if they, we know you can't control them, but if you guys could just take their meetings, just put them on your side and say, hey, look, here's the election commission. You know, because anybody who knows how that system functions over there, they know there's really not a lot of control. Our state representatives don't even know what's going on because we've called them and talked to them. And going to Nashville, glad you left. Nice cowardly move. You know, that going to Nashville is not the answer. You can't even get the answers here. We can't even get the answers here. You can't even put your meetings and announce your meetings when they should be announced. Past time to do something, guys, and we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Anyone else want to speak for the commission? Okay. Announcements. Next meeting, work session, August 22nd, 7 o'clock here at the courthouse. Upcoming events, the Finance Committee following this meeting here in the commission room. Reception honoring Chairman Erica Davis. The Law Enforcement Committee will be tomorrow at 10:30 at the Sheriff's Office. Broadband Initiative Ad Hoc will be August the 22nd at noon in the commission room.